Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So do you see the screen now?
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, let's start. Okay, safety in workplace. Before starting, please, Jens, put your, I think there is also latest there, put your mobile phones off, MP3 players off, and mute your computer. If you have got any questions, you can unmute and ask me anytime. So today we will talk about 4 sessions, which is very, very vital about the HSC, safety in workplace. One of them is fundamental safety considerations. Another one, hazard, risk, and controls. The third one, common workplace hazard, and the fourth one is the accidents and incidents. All of them are very, very important, as I told. So let's start with the first session, fundamental safety consideration. In our seminars, I have included video, NAPO videos. They will clearly explain what I want to explain to you. So I think it will be very interesting for you. Our first video about the consequences of poor safety at workplace. Mr. Mehdi, do you hear the sound?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay, as you see from the video, we can achieve, I think, from the business objective for something. But if you haven't got safety, enough safety, the result is getting injury or even the fatality there. And if there is any injury or fatality within the organization, there is a reputation issue, and there is also fines, legal issues, that if something happens to us, firstly, just our family are waiting for us, just we are coming to work and working here. And after that, we must return to our family. There will be negative result for our family, for ourselves, for our company, and for the reputation of the company. So the safety, very important. The first, we always say safety is first. And that's why we shall obey all the rules about the safety. There can be question why we shall follow safety. There are 3 reasons, always 3 reasons. One of them is moral reason. Moral reason is, as I told, we are coming to work safely in healthy condition, and we must return to our family, how we just arrive to our work. Another one is legal. You know, our Azerbaijan, we have got legal duties, we have got international legal duties, and all countries have got legal duties. As per the legal, we have to obey to safety, because unless there are some fines and persecutions, just not obeying the safety. And the last one, the third one, is the financial concern. If we don't obey, if we don't follow the safety, there will be some consequences, financial consequences, such as loss of client, then loss of plant and equipment, lost production, bad publicity, heavy fines, and sick pay. Those 3 reasons just tells us that we shall follow the safety, and we must ensure that safety in workplace is followed by all people, by everyone, even by us. So there are some employer legal duties, such as all employers, all the companies shall ensure that all the employees follow health and safety at workplace, and they create health and safety work condition. Every employer shall ensure that there are suitable welfare facilities such as washing facility, toilets, place to eat and drink, and they must ensure that they provide employees with information and training about health and safety, and they must provide PPE, and they must ensure that all employees are adequately supervised and the workplace safe and clean, and the workplace is safe as well. And we have got own legal duties as an employee.
Recording in progress.
If you can get into the water slowly, use the rope to guide yourself.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Dear participants, if you have questions, please don't hesitate and freely ask them.
Okay. So as an employee, we have got a duty. Duties such as we must take care of ourselves, then take care of our colleagues, our friends at workplace, and of course cooperate with our employer, our company. These are the employees' legal duties. Sorry, this is about this is the about sorry Mehdi Bey. Bilmiyorum, hemen seminardayım. Sorry, gents. Our second session is about hazard, risk, and control at workplace. Okay. So there is another video, NAPA video, which clearly explains our topic. Yes, gents, as you see from the video, safety always requires more effort and time. The man in the video can do shortcut, but the risk there is very, very high. If there is a fall, the result can be ended with a fatality. That's why always safety in order to follow the safety, we must take some time from our life, or we must delay some business objectives. For example, the bridge was far away from the area, but it took time. It would take time to go to the bridge and cross the excavated area. But the safest way is that way. We shall not take shortcuts, and we shall just ensure that there is a protective barrier on the excavation, and on that excavation, with that bridge, we must cross the excavated area. It is about the risk and the hazard. I will talk later about what is risk and hazard. Actually, hazard is something potential that can cause harm. Okay, gents. just anything. If there is a potential to cause harm, it means that it is hazard. Hazard can be glass of water, hazard can be electrical drill, hazard can be sheet of paper, leather, and a glue. Sorry, gents. Okay, you can ask why glass of water can be hazard. For example, imagine if the water is near the electricity, is around the electricity, it is a hazard. Or if the drill, if there is some damage about the cable of the drill, it's a hazard. Sheet of paper is near the flammable place, is the hazard itself. Leather as well, and a tube of glue, which is chemical. Sorry, there is a very, very urgent emergent call. I must answer this call. Salam.
Dear attendants, sorry for this misunderstanding. Our speaker will continue to our session. Well, does anybody have some question to our speaker? If you have one, please, you can unmute yourself or write it in chat box.
I apologize, Jens. It was an emergency about the work. That's why I should answer the call. So all of these are the hazards. For example, glue, you know, it's a chemical. If we inject, just drink glue, or if the glue touch our skin, it's the hazard itself. So it depends on whether the item is. As I told, if the water is around electricity, it's the hazard. So what is the risk? Actually, gents, when we're talking about the risk, please ensure that there is two items about the risk. One is the probability or likelihood. Another one is the severity, okay? The likelihood of harm being realized from the hazard. Will someone get injured? There is a question. If the answer is yes, there is a possibility of the risk there. And another one is the severity of the harm realized from the hazard. If someone is injured, how serious it will be. So imagine the plane on the air. The probability or likelihood of the plane fall is very, very low, but the severity is very high. If the plane fall on the ground somewhere, the probability could be fatality of all the passengers there. So when you're talking about the risk, we must think about the likelihood and we must think about the severity. If the severity high and the likelihood is high, it means that our activity is a very risky activity. Or if they are medium, it means that it's a medium. And if the likelihood or severity of the harm or maybe hazard is low, it means that it's the low risk activity. So when we are doing the risk assessment of work area in workplace, we must identify task, we must define the task, and we must list all the tasks in the work area, and we must identify the risk hazard in the work area, work task. After the identifying hazard, just we are thinking what could go wrong, or how might harm occur in some way, or who could be harmed. All of those questions are very, very, very important in order to identify our risk in work area. After identifying the risk, we must estimate the size of risk. We must evaluate it risk and put required controls for the risk, for the hazard there. And after that, we are recording the findings and introducing risk controls. And after that, we are reviewing the findings. So when doing risk assessment, we must always apply to hierarchical risk controls. You see on the screen, the first, the control is eliminate. So when doing the activity in the work area, we must always think about the elimination of the risk. If the elimination of the risk is possible, then we are eliminating the risk. If it is not possible, then we are thinking about other hierarchical risk control measures, such as reduce. For example, there is a high riskier or maybe chemical, dry powder chemical, which is unhelpful, which is not just safe for our body. Then we are thinking about the reducing those chemicals with less hazardous chemical, maybe for the liquid, the same characteristic chemical, but with liquid one. We are reducing with lower riskier activity. If the reducing is not possible, then we are isolating the risk. Imagine the generator. Generator creates high noise. If we don't put enclosure around the generator, it would create very, very high noise. But isolation, we put the enclosure around the generator, we isolated the noise, the sound there, and we achieved our goal by the isolating the hazard, the risk. And after that, there is a controls. Controls mean that we provide training for the employees. We provide procedures. We provide method statement. We provide all the documents about the activity in order to enhance, to improve the knowledge, or to raise the awareness of the employees about the risk. And after that, we're thinking about the PPE, which is personal protective equipment, our coveralls, boots, safety glasses, helmets, etc. And it only protects us, the wearer, the employee himself, the PPE. But other elimination, reduce, isolate controls, and prevents those the first four prevents all from the hazard or risk. The fifth one is the personal protective equipment, which only protects the employee who wears personal protective equipment. And the last one is the discipline. Discipline is very important. We must be disciplined, and we must ensure that we just implement all safety requirements in the work area in order to achieve our goals. So there is another video about the controls, NAPA video. Let's look at the video together, and we will discuss later. Okay, controls you see on the video, which are very important, even prior during the activity where we shall do toolbox talk, and every engineer or every supervisor or manager must ensure that all the work crew, work team, just understand what is required to do. If we don't pay attention to the toolbox talk, to the lecture maybe, then we will evidence some injuries or accident in the work area. In order to achieve safety in workplace, the safe system of work is very important. What is safety system of work? It is step-by-step approach to carrying out a task safely, taking into account the risk and control measures, the equipment needed, the environment, emergency, and the competence of the workers. So, a safety system of work is assessing this task, identifying the hazard, define safe systems, implement the system, and monitor the system. So, when we're talking about the safe system of work, we also should consider permit to work. Permit to work is a system, just formal. The system is a very formal written system used to control work as identified. So we are doing risk assessment in the work area. For example, imagine that we define our task, our work. After that, we are visiting our work area. We identify our risk, the hazard there, and we are putting control measures. All of them are recorded in the permit to work. It is the common approach that this permit to work helps us to ensure that all parties, beginning from the managers to the low employer, all of them understood the work in the work area. All of them are very clear about the hazards and the risk about the task. So permit to work is a formal document, and we just ensure that permit to work are prepared for the maintenance on live plant, for high voltage electrical work, when working in confined space, when working at height, when doing lifting, complicated and complex lifting activities, when working in excavation, and when doing hot work. Hot work means that welding, etc. So another one is that the important topic is safety signage. So all of those signs, warning signs, prohibition signs, mandatory signs, informative signs, and the firefighting equipment sign, just they are standardized signs and applicable in all countries, and they warn us, they give some information about the safety. So when we don't obey the sign requirement, we can invite, or we may invite accident to ourselves or to work area. Very important, just we must follow safety signs in the work area, and we must ensure that there is a proper signs for as per the activities in the work area.
Muslum Bey, sorry, we have a question from our participant.
Yes,
he's asking, do all companies in oil sector have same standard safety policy, or it depends on company? Okay,
thank you. Very good question. We will touch to safety policy. All the company actually, they have got a separate safety policy as per the discipline they are doing, as per the activity they are doing. But they look like each other. But as per the activity, as per the field, it differs from each other. But to have safety policy in place is important and mandatory as per this legislation requirement, and as per the international standard, the requirement of the standard international standards. So every company shall have safety policy as per the activities they are doing. Okay.
Thank you so much. And Muslum, I have also a question regarding to companies' safety standards. You know, is it possible that some ordinary employee can stop the process, let's say in the plant, if he identified some potential hazard? Does he have some responsibility?
Thank you for the question. Every employee can stop the work if there is some hazard or maybe unsafe thing or unsafe condition or unsafe act. Every employee have power to stop the job because it is his just duty, and every employer, every company manager or director welcomes these stops, because even if we are in doubt, we don't know if it is correct or wrong. Maybe engineering drawing, maybe PNID, etc. There is an isolation of the plant, maybe pipeline as per the drawing. If we have got any doubt that the PNID is not correct, even in that time we must stop the job. And every director or the manager of the company welcomes this attitude, behavior. After that, we are just identifying or just finding solution to our doubt. If we are correct, it's okay. If we are not correct, it's okay as well. We just the job will proceed. But every people shall stop their job if there is something unsafe condition or maybe unsafe act or maybe something just risk to our environment, maybe asset, maybe people himself, and etc. There is a power of the employee to stop the job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And some participant asking, can you talk about toolbox talk? I mean, the definition of toolbox talk. What does it mean, and what exactly talk about it? I guess.
Okay. Toolbox talk is very important. Just firstly, as we told in our previous slides, we defining the task. We just identifying task. After identification of the task, we are doing risk assessment. We just identify our hazard. We identify our risk. We identify our controls in order to minimize the risk. And after that, we must ensure that every employer are aware about the hazards, controls, and task itself. For example, imagine that I will be giving example. Me as a HEC, there is another one is the, for example, an engineer. Another one is the, for example, supervisor and manager doing risk assessment together, and the manager have got its team which will do the activity. If we don't do toolbox talk, we know that there is some hazard risk, but we know four people know those hazard and the risk. But the team who will do activity, if we don't conduct toolbox talk to him, if we don't share all the hazard, all identify risk, all the controls to them, we shall not start our job, because the team must be aware about the task itself, the hazard and the risk and the controls, and after that they must begin the job. That's why toolbox talk is very important. Prior doing the job, prior doing the activity, we shall ensure that there is a clear toolbox talk, and we shall ensure that every people understand their duties. We will touch this topic as well in our next slides. Okay, gents, do you have got any questions? If not, I will proceed. Okay, continue. So, common workplace hazard. When we're talking about the common workplace hazard, working at height comes first, because in every field, in every area, people are tend to work at height. Even changing the bulb of the lamp or light is the working at height itself. So there is a riskier activity when doing all of the working at height activities are very risky. There is a proper procedure requirement, proper procedure risk assessment for working at height activity at the work area, and every employee or employer are ensured that all of the requirements are followed. Let's look at the NAPO video and we will discuss. So for doing working at site activity, correct tool also required. If we use something, for example, a chair on the as you see in the video, the possibility of getting injured or fall very high. You know, in the risk, there is a two important item. One of them is likelihood or possibility, and another one is the severity. So when working on the chair, we raise the possibility. It's the just possible. The fall was possible from the beginning of the activity when working on the chair. So the proper tool is very important, and of course there is also some procedural requirements in order to do working at height activities. So what's working at height? If there is a possibility of personal injury due to falling, it's the working at height. So main hazard of the working at height are people falling or objects falling, working platforms collapsing or overturning, contact with overhead electrical services. There are also some controls for the working at height, such as we shall avoid working at height if possible. You know, elimination, it's the hierarchy of the control, the first control. Another one, if elimination is not possible, then we must use work equipment in order to prevent falls. For example, we must ensure that we are using proper ladders, we are using proper fall arrestor or fall prevention equipment, etc. So the third one is to use work equipment to minimize the distance and the consequence of fall. Another one is other measures to reduce the risk of fall, such as training, such as toolbox dog, such as procedure requirements, such as method statements, and etc. Excavation is another just hazardous area in the workplace. We can come across with the excavation in the work areas. There is a very short video about the excavation. So safety in that area, you know, to achieve the objective business objective is very easy, but to achieve safely is a bit difficult because in that video in the excavation area, the employer, the worker didn't put hard barrier around the excavation. Firstly, he put the barrier, he put a hard barrier around the excavation, but there is a pressure by his manager or by his supervisor that he must finish the job. So he doing shortcuts and don't put hard barrier around the excavation, only doing the excavation. At last, there is an accident there, incident there, the top manager, maybe director, fall into the excavation and they get injured. So safety requires some effort or time, and after that we can achieve our objectives. Confined space is another riskier area in our workplace, in the workplace in general. So what are the confined space? They can be storage tank, they can be silos, reaction vessel, they can be enclosed drains, manholes, ship holes, and sewers. If there is an enclosed area, if there is a lack of oxygen, if there is a hazardous atmosphere, if there is only one entrance and one exit, if the area is not designed for the permanent occupancy, it means that it's confined space. So the risk is very high inside the confined space. It's a short video again.
Exposure to harmful substances or environments is a leading cause of illness and death in the industrial workplace. Working in a confined space can represent a triple threat of hazards to employees. First, workers run the risk of exposure to a range of hazardous atmospheres when entering a confined space. Second, the space can present physical dangers due to cramped working space, proximity to moving equipment, poor walking surfaces, and the possibility of engulfment. Finally, the nature of confined spaces makes rescue of someone needing assistance within the space much more difficult. To be sure that work within a confined space is performed safely, employers must develop strategies that help workers recognize and avoid these potentially dangerous conditions. Effective confined space entry strategies should begin with the education and training of all entrants, attendants, and support personnel.
Okay, let me answer the question. What height is required to wear PPE and not need permit to work? So another question is what height is required to wear PPE and need permit to work? Since before there was just exact height. For example, in one area, when one country demanded 1.80 centimeter, 1.80 meter. Another one required 2 meters height. But now, if there is a possibility of getting injury as a result of fall, it is the working at height. It means that we must ensure that we are not just we preventing ourselves from falling by wearing correct PPE such as harness, inertial wheel, or by erecting scaffold barrier around us. Imagine, for example, I will give example. We are working on 50 centimeter height.
1,200. Is that okay? Yeah, and yet food payment. I'll be 1,000.
Mr. May, we can't hear you well. Could you please turn on your microphone?
Sorry. Okay. Imagine I will give example working on 50 centimeter height and the duration of the work is 1 hour. If we don't ensure that, if we don't provide protection around us such as scaffold barriers or don't wear PPE harness and the inertial wheel, during our activity, 1 hour activity, we might be distracted and fall down. That's why it's required now in all company, in all international companies, maybe it's in legal companies as well, national companies as well. We must wear PPE when working at height, and there is not exact height nowadays. And the permit to work required. If the in working at height activity, if the severity of fall could be high, then thoroughly permit to work are prepared and approved by the discipline. Maybe if the severity of working at height and fall will be fatality, then the approval goes to the vice president or the president, or if the severity of the activity is low or medium, the manager or the site controller could approve the permit to work. But if the severity is low, some companies doing procedures or some companies doing annual risk assessment or procedures only applicable to those activities, to such kind of activity. And in the procedure, there is a HEC column, and on that column, the employee prior beginning the job must ensure that he just follow all the requirements recorded on the procedure or permit to work. Is it clear? If so, let's continue to our topic. So permit to work required or procedure required. So work equipment. Actually, safety in workplace is a very general topic that I try to include all required topics to our presentation, and the work equipment are among those topics. You know, in our work area, we are using work equipment. It's essential to use work equipment, such as hand tools, hammer, wrench, power tools, machinery, can be lathe machines, which we have in our workshop as well. Apparatus, maybe fans, breathing apparatus, lifting equipment, and personal protective equipment. So every employer and employee or the workers must ensure that all the work equipment are in good condition. That's why it's required to do pre-use inspection. Even sometimes we are using checklists in order to check the work equipment and ensure that the equipment is safe or in good condition. And after that, we are using those tools. The work equipment can be hand tools and they can be power tools. For the power tools, we are checking the cables. We are doing portable appliance testing by the responsible electrical person. For the hand tools, we are also checking the tools, the condition of the tools. If they are okay, then we are doing the job. So movement of the vehicles in the work area. There is another short video about the driving safely. Let's look at the video together and we will discuss driving.
Muslim, sorry. Before we start video, we have some questions from our participants.
Yes.
Yes. Who is the responsible person in the company to approve the permit to work? I mean, is he a project manager or engineer?
Okay, good. Let me say that the responsible person is the approver of the permit to work. I will give you an example. For the engineering job, if the job related with the engineering, it must be approved by the lead engineer or the manager of the discipline. Or if the area is controlled by the one-side control or manager, and if he is responsible for the permit to work for the job being done in his area, then he's the approver of the job. Or if the activity is related with the safety, as I am a HSE lead here, I am the approver of the job. Is it clear? So the discipline lead is the approver of the permit to work. Or if the company is ruled, supervised or controlled by one manager, and if he is responsible for the activity in his area, he's responsible for the permit. Give the second example, the last example, our work area in here in Caterpillar, there is a general manager, there is also operations manager. Okay. So in the work area as required by the legally by the government, by the our, for example, national or in the international standards, we must follow driving requirements, such as in the video, we shall ensure that nothing distracts us, nothing distracts the driver or operator of the vehicle. So if we operate the vehicle or if we drive some machine here, we must ensure that we are focused on the job itself. We focus on the driving, and we must ensure that nothing distracts us. In that time, we just can make the safety, can make the driving safe in the work area, the workplace. There are some controls for the vehicles, such as solid barriers. So around the excavation, we are putting some scaffold barriers, or we call them solid barriers. We put the barriers on the work area in order to segregate people and the vehicle themselves. For example, putting barrier in that area, only people going or crossing the road, and the other area, the vehicles move on. And then safe system, we shall not leave the keys on the vehicles in order to ensure that untrained person couldn't operate the vehicle. Imagine that there is a key on the vehicle, someone could switch on the vehicle, or someone could operate the vehicle. So to leave the keys on the vehicle is not allowed. So banksman, for some large vehicles, during the maneuvering, the flagman or banksman required in order to eliminate the risk, in order to eliminate the accident. Warning signs for the drivers and the pedestrians. There shall be clear signs in order to warn the pedestrian that there is a heavy vehicle, or there must be signs for the drivers that there are pedestrians, be careful. The drivers must be competent and authorized. That's why we must ensure that they are trained and they have got valid license in order to drive the vehicle. There must be one-way traffic system. Imagine that if there's a two-way traffic system, we are increasing the risk of accident or crash of the vehicles. All the vehicles shall be maintained. They must be in good condition in order to be operated safely, and we must obey the safety speed limits. Electricity, another hazard in the work area, such as burns, shock, arcing, fires, explosion. For example, falls from height as a result of shock. They are the main hazard about the electricity, and in all work area we come across with the electricity. The risks are plant equipment related risk and the people related risk, such as unsuitable design or construction, inadequate maintenance, and suitable selection about the plant can cause risk about the electricity. And of course, lack of competence, unsafe system of work, inadequate supervision, unclear responsibility and the working life. It's all related with the people, and they pose risk. Such kind of activities pose risk. That's why it's very important that we, as an employer, ensure that all of that are in place in order to achieve the safety in the work area. So lockout tagout is very important during the electrical works. Let's look at the video about the lockout tagout. So just for all kind of energy isolation, could be, for example, pneumatic isolation, hydraulic isolation. In all kind of energy isolation, lockout and a tagout is very important. For example, if you are doing some engineering job, if you are doing, for example, isolation of the process system, or the can be pipeline itself, we must ensure that we do correct isolation. In that video, the first man put his lock on the isolation, but the second man didn't put his lock. That's why after the first activity finish, the man removes his lock and doing the process continues his just the isolation. But if the second lock was in place, he would see that there is another lock. He wouldn't de-isolate the area. So isolation, lockout, and the tagout very important in order to ensure that there's a proper isolation and the job can be done safely. Lifting operations, another important topic. Just we are ending. During the lifting operations, there are some main hazards such as collapse of the lifting crane, maybe overturning unsuitable base, overloading, then lifting accessory we will talk about, and safe system of work. There are some controls that we must ensure that all the lifting equipment, devices, accessories, etc., they are tested and that they are certified to be used. All lifting accessories shall be tested in 6 monthly basis. All lifting equipment. Lifting equipment means that above hook is the lifting equipment, such as cranes. Below hook is the accessories. They are called as accessories. They are controlled or tested by on 6 monthly basis. So there is a proper planning and supervision about the lifting. All the lifting crew team shall be trained. Then during the lifting, the power shall be turned off. Safe working load must be clear, and all the work crew and the work team must ensure that they don't over exceed a safe working load. And there must be information on the load, and there must be exclusion zone. There must be barriers in order to prevent the unauthorized entry to the work area. And of course, there must be PPE in place. Another topic is the hazardous substance, which we just use on a daily basis in our work area. The hazardous substance means that chemicals in the work area. So very important to pay attention to all information such as material safety data sheet of the chemicals. What is the material safety data sheet? It gives full information about the chemical itself, the characteristics of the chemical, the manufacturer of the chemical, the first aid measures, disposal measures, then exposure, all information. There is 16 sections. We must ensure that all of those 16 sections of the MSTS are implemented without any violation in order to keep the work area safe. So there are some controls about the chemicals, hazardous substance. We must reduce the number of employees exposed. We must provide information, instruction, and training. We must ensure that there is a partial enclosure extraction equipment. The health surveillance program, immunization program is very important. Then total enclosure of process, using safe system of work, very important during using hazardous substance. Good hygiene and the suitable PPE is very important. So noise, another important, the hazard area, the risk area in the workplace. Some controls about the noise. In every work area, for example, in our area, 85 decibel is the limited decibel. Above 85 decibel, we must ensure that all employees wear earplugs or they are wearing muffler. But below 85 decibel, it's not required legally. They can wear or they cannot wear. It's not just we don't control them. But above 85 decibel, it's required that every employee wear earplugs. So all noisy areas must be provided with the protection zones. Every employee shall know that after that area there is a noisy area and he shall wear earplug. That's why there must be signs in the work area. So we must reduce the noise at source. We must reduce the exposure. There must be some action levels, and we must enforce use of those action levels or the actions or the controls. Hand-arm vibration syndrome is very important.
Sorry for
Sorry.
interrupting. Actually, we have some questions from our participant.
Okay, good.
Well, you know, what are the negative consequences if we will not follow, I mean, the protection from the noise? I mean, you just, there are no injuries, I guess. I mean, the blood, there are no blood or some physical, I mean, influence on our body.
Good. Okay, there are two consequences. One is acute consequence, another one is a chronic consequence. What's acute consequence? If we observe immediate, for example, health condition, it's the acute. For example, if we lost our hearing after the high noise, it's the acute. Or if you're working years, maybe 5 years, 10 years, and if we get some hearing damage, we call them chronic damage. It depends on the activity, noisy area we work, and it depends on the noise. Imagine that very high noise. If we immediately exposed to a very high noise, we can get acute damage of our hearing system, our ears. But just take some time in order, as I said, chronicle, in order to get our hearing damage. We call them tinnitus. The disease is called tinnitus, loss of hearing. So there are two consequences, Mr. Mehdi, acute and chronic.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there is a video about the noise. Let's look at the video. Mr. Mehdi, it's a clear just evidence that there's an acute effect after the just working in noisy area, after the entrance to noisy area. He got acute effect of the just losing of the hearing capability. It's the acute, but after that some period of time we call them chronic effect. Okay. For the hand-arm vibration, if we using vibrating tools, the result will be hand-arm vibration syndrome. What is the syndrome? So you see on the photo, whitening of the finger. after using vibrating tools for a long period of time, for example, maybe 8 hours, 9 hours, or 10 hours, depending of the vibrating equipment. If the equipment creates high vibration, the result will be like that. So before using vibrating equipment, we must ensure that we identified all the risk related with the vibration. For example, we call them the measurement unit is the magnitude, meters per second. Above 5 meters per second, we must ensure that there is a proper controls for the employee, for the worker working with the vibrating equipment. If the vibration is very high, we put some limitations. For example, we say that the employee must work only 1 hour during the day shift. After 1 hour, he must be replaced by his colleague. It depends of the vibrating equipment and the vibration itself. So we eliminate and control the exposure to the levels as per the regulations, and the health monitoring is important in order to control the harm. And we must provide information training to employees in order to raise their awareness about the vibration and in order to prevent vibration syndrome. Asbestos, very important. In some old buildings, when doing some demolition, cutting, or activities, for example, on some roof on old buildings, there are some asbestos. Asbestos means that cancer, that diseases, cancer, mesothelioma, etc. All of them are related with a cancer. We must ensure that there isn't any asbestos in our work area. If we observe any asbestos, we shall not touch those asbestos. We must stop and tell our supervisor and escalate to our management, to the management, in order to deal with the asbestos. Only licensed contractor shall deal with the asbestos. They shall remove the asbestos from the area, because the asbestos does very danger for our the human body, and it can cause to the cancer disease. The controls they must be assessed adequately. The risk must be identified. Then after the identification of the risk, the job must be stopped, and we shall invite the licensed contractor in order to remove the asbestos from the area. Manual handling. If we use our muscles, if the muscle power is required in order to lift, move, transfer the load, we call them manual handling. For example, lifting, twisting, bending, etc., lowering, all of them related with the manual handling. So there is a short video. So manual handling differs from the man and the lady. For the woman, So before we said that maximum 25 kg is allowed for the man and for the 15 kg for the woman. So now it depends on the height we, for example, lift the load. If the load in our shoulder height, we cannot lift 25 kg. The allowed limit will be such as 10 kg. Or if we just lifting the load from the downwards from the knee height, it can be maybe 15 kg or 20 kg. It depends on the height of the area, maybe a level where we lift the load and how we transfer the load. If the load is the, for example, bulky one, if the area, for example, if there would be some steps in order to move the load to that area, we must consider the environment, the area where we work and where we are doing manual handling. It depends on the risk. So as per the risk assessment, we must identify that we are doing correct manual handling techniques. And in order to reduce the risk, we must ensure that we are using tools, for example, trolleys, in order to move the loads from one area to another area. Fire, very important. One, in order to eliminate fire, you know that there are three things: full, oxygen, and ignition. If we remove one of them, we will extinguish fire. So during the fire, we must be familiarized with our fire extinguisher in the work area, and the only trained people can use those fire extinguishers. If the fire is big enough, then the trained person even must leave the area, go to master point. The main hazard of the fire is the toxic fume, smoke, then explosion risk in some environments, oxygen depletion, flame, convected heat, structural failure, and the collapse of the building. So there are some controls for the fire. If you observe fire, we must raise alarm in order to inform all other peoples in the area. And after the initiation of the alarm, we must evacuate the area. We must go to the master point from the shortest and safest route, and stay in the master point until the further clarification or the further command, etc. So the last topic is the accident investigation. Why it's important? In every behind every major injury, there are some 10 minor injuries. There are some, for example, 30. There is an approximate number. Property damage. There are 600 damage or injuries. So if we don't stop, for example, the last one, damage in time, if we don't stop proper damage in time, they will lead to the major injury. The major injury could be explosion of the area, fatality, and etc. It's a major one. So we must ensure that we stop the unsafe activity and the condition in time. We must ensure that we report them in time, and we must ensure that we investigate the cause, the root cause of the unsafe action and the condition. If we do as I said, we would prevent the major injuries happen in the work area. So reporting is very important, and the recording of course a very important thing in the during the prevention of the accidents. The reasons why we should record the accidents. So we are reporting and recording the accident in order to monitor trends. We are reporting in order to prevent recurrence. So very important to prevent recurrence. If you don't report, the same kind of accident will happen in future again. So we are reporting the accident, we are investigating the cause, and we are finding the root cause, and after that we are putting some actions, controls, and we do capture lesson learned from the event, from the accident. So reporting is very important in order to prevent recurrence. It is a legal duty as well to report, because every government, every country requires that every employer reports the accident in the area. So we link to health surveillance, and we defend civil claim and the criminal action in the courts. So there is the last video, I think, it's about the reporting, NAPA video. Let's look at the video about the reporting. So reporting in time and doing preventive actions, very important. There is a reporting in place in the video, but no any action for the report. The area should be barricaded and there should be informative label that there is a faulty cable in the area, in the room. The barrier, the hard barrier there is a loosened bolt for the hard barriers. The report and the action should be in place in order to prevent the accident. So reporting is very important in order to prevent recurrence. So why we are investigating? We are investigating in order to collate accident and ill health data and establish trends. Identify our weakness area and identify and inform our management system that there is a management, that there is a weakness area, there is a gap in that area in order to find solutions for those weaknesses. We are just investigating in order to comply the legal requirements, to prevent business loss, to demonstrate concern and defend during the court. Of course, we are investigating in order to prevent future accident happen again. So it's the end of the course, gents. End of the course. So the safety in workplace, as I said, is a general term, a very big area, sphere. I tried to capture all, not all, just important topics in our today's seminar, and I try to raise your awareness about the safety in the workplace. So thank you very much. There is some question, I think, in the chat.
Yes, Muslum Bey, here is a number of questions. If you let me, I can read it for you. Which safety rules can be used against light pollution?
Okay. Okay. Light pollution. Mr. Mehdi, just maybe you evidenced some lights, for example,
like ultraviolet.
old lights. Yes, of course, ultraviolets, old lights. They create some pollution to our environment, atmosphere. So for the carbon footprint, it's required that we replaced all those kind of lights with the, for example, LED lights, which prevents the pollution of the air. So the replacement is required to prevent the light pollution workplace. Or if the replacement is not just achievable, then we must ensure that we minimize the light in the area. For example, we minimize the light during the night shift. Nighttime, we minimize the light during the break times or lunch times, etc. There is another method, but the best method is the replacement of the lights with the less riskier lights in order to prevent the light pollution.
Thank you. Let's move to the next question. It's a little bit long. What the contractor manager should do if the company hired the contractor required to finalize the work immediately, while the contractor should accommodate unskilled or less knowledge workers from local subcontractors that force the contractor to use the subcontractor's workers, and if not, the work will be stopped by the local people.
Okay, a bit long
It's
question.
a little bit complicated question.
Yeah, complicated. What contractor manager should do if the company hired the contractor required to finalize the work while the contractor should accommodate skilled and less knowledge? Okay. To accommodate unskilled and less knowledge workers from the local subcontractors, the main thesis of the question is that every company shall ensure that safe system of work in that area is implemented and achieved, and every employer shall ensure that all the contractors and the subcontractors follow the requirement of that area, of that safe system of work and the permit to work. If my safe system of work say that the work shall be done in that way, in order to do safely, then all the contractor and subcontractors shall follow my requirement, because it's my area, I'm responsible to that area. Okay, is it clear?
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the last question. What is the maximum weight carrying load for man and woman?
Okay, there isn't a maximum weight. There isn't maximum weight, as I told. Before we said that 25 kg is allowed for the man, 15 kg allowed for the woman. But now it depends on the people, the man or woman himself or herself. For example, if the man is the muscular, if the man is very just strong, and another thing, if the man is very weak, there is a logical difference between them. For example, the first man could lift 25 kg easily. The second man could lift maximum 25 kg. It depends on the man itself. I mean, the characteristics or maybe bodily force of the man or the woman, himself or herself. Besides the load, we must ensure that the load is in correct height. The best way in order to lift the load is in our waist level. If the load is in the waist level, it's very easy to lift the load, but there isn't maximum weight. If the load is higher in our shoulder level, we would difficultly lift 25 kg, or the woman difficultly lift the 15 kg. Or if the load is, for example, maybe ankle level, there would be some back injury. That's why we couldn't lift 25 kg. It depends of the load location, and it depends of the man himself. If the man is muscular or not, it depends on the man itself. So there isn't a maximum weight.
Yeah, I guess maybe the age of the man or woman is also affect on the ability to lift the weight as well.
In that kind of physiology of the man, you are correct, Mr. Mehdi. Age, for example, as I said, if maybe he's very, very thin or weak enough in order to lift the load. It depends on the physiology of the man or woman. And of course, it depends of the location of the load in order to be lifted.
Yes, thank you so much, Muslim. And the one last question from our participant. Thanks so much for the lecture. Please, as a mechanical engineering student, what can I do to be the HC engineer? Yeah.
Okay, mechanical engineering, this field is much more appropriate for the to work as a HC engineer, because you know the process safety, you know engineering, and after that you can work easily as a HC engineer, especially for the process safety engineer. I would prefer this one for you, process safety engineer, because there is a collective prevention and there is a personal prevention during the just for the safety. I mean, if we do proper process safety, we collectively prevent the people there. For example, if we do work as a HC engineer for the process, it means that there is some protection methods. We call them sometimes LOPA, layers of protection. HC engineer he's the best man, knows about the process, and he will do the best in order to protect all the plant and all the people working there. And there is also personal safety. So in order to work as a HC engineer, you have got discipline. You can get some safety related maybe course, or maybe some diploma, maybe some certification, and after that begin from the HC and continue as a HC engineer in future. So the first one is, I think you must get internationally recognized safety course in order to begin. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Muslim Bey.
Have you got any other questions?
Yes. Let's wait some seconds. So the attendees, students, if you don't have some questions, we can conclude our today's session. So Muslim Bey, thank you so much for dedicating your time, for sharing your knowledge and experience with our students. And we're really sure that as for the our students and the future young professionals, your knowledge will be really beneficial for them. So then we can work safely and and avoid any potential hazards.
Thank you. Just thank you for the invitation. It's a very great pleasure for me to talk to you and to share my knowledge about the safety in workplace. Just please remember that safety is the first. We shouldn't compromise safety in order to achieve any other business objective. We shall ensure that we save ourselves. We shall ensure that we save our colleagues. We shall ensure that we come to work as a healthier, and the work returning back to our home as a healthier as we arrive to work. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope you will benefit from the knowledge from which I shared with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for attending our session, and stay tuned for the next session in the series of the collaborative sessions between the XP and IMechE student chapter. So bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.